Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. Today, I'm going to be playing the Tier 7 Premium Cruiser, the Belfast, for the Removed series. This is the third video, I guess, that I'm covering. So this is the Belfast, of course, very well-known ship in the game, because you can't obtain it anymore, but it's pretty good, some might say. And we'll cover why it's pretty good, etc. in this game. For the build, for the Belfast, we've got this currently running. Of course, I'll showcase it a bit more in detail after the game's done, and we'll talk about why we're taking certain things, etc. But this is the build. But let's go back to the game. So here it is. We're on land of... Well, actually, we're on Haven. We're on Haven in the Belfast. It is a top-tier match, as you can see. This is live commentary, so I'll be playing the game when I'm talking this time, like the other times. Well, right now we're just kind of spawned in the middle of the map. All the battleships seems to be going to the other side of the map, which is kind of where I want to go, to be honest. But what makes Belfast pretty good at Tier 7, at least compared to its other cruiser counterparts? Well, for one, you get radar, which I don't think any Tech 3 ship actually gets radar at Tier 7. But more importantly, you don't just get radar, but you also get the British cruiser smokescreen. So you get the same smokescreen as you do on Fiji, except instead of getting a heal like Fiji gets, you get a radar. Not just that though, instead of only having AP like Fiji does, you also have HE on this one, but you do not have the improved AP that Fiji gets. This is just standard light cruiser AP, so it's not going to do too well, the AP, to be honest, when compared to the HE. Now, you saw in my build, we've spec'd IFHE. The reason for this is when you get into matchmaking of Tier 6 and 7 battleships, you can literally pen them every single place. Most of them, not all of them, because there are some which are quite armored. But some of them, you're gonna be able to damage pretty much everywhere. Speaking of which, one of those being the Colorado. I wish he was spotted though, unfortunately, because I will power farm him very easily. Now, unfortunately, our Nicholas is playing overly aggressive there. A bit of a risky play. Quite a risky play, even. He might actually just end up dying, but I'm not really sure. Jervis does die to the Nicholas's torps. How? That's kind of crazy, actually. I don't know if you want to consider that luck or skill, guys, but that's pretty impressive. Now, something to keep in mind with the IFHE on Belfast is it's not all perfect. You will, of course, be able to pen those Tier 7 battleships everywhere. Well, not all of them, but some of them. But you do have that downside of, well, when you're facing Tier 8 battleships, you're not going to be able to pen them anyway because they have 32mm armor, because you don't get the light cruiser pen of Tier 8 cruisers with the Belfast or any light cruiser at Tier 7. You will, unfortunately... Ooh. Oh! Sorry, that was a bit loud, so I'm sorry. You will unfortunately not be able to pen them, so you're gonna have to rely on your fire damage against those Tier 8s. And of course, when we take IFHE, our fire chance is reduced by 50%, so we're gonna have quite a low fire chance when compared to our stock fire chance. So it's pretty much up to you if you want to take IFHE or not. In Tier 7 matchmaking, it's definitely gonna help you out, and you're gonna do very well. But when it comes to Tier 8 matchmaking, you're gonna have a bit of a hard time. Even Tier 9 matchmaking as well. So keep that in mind. But when you fight ships like Colorado, it almost just makes it worth it. Nagato, for example. King George V, Duke of York. All these ships will take big damage from your HE because you pen them everywhere. You have 12 shells. You shoot every 7.5 seconds stock. And then you have AR, so that gets buffed. You could realistically, instead of IFHE, you could also take top grade gunner if you want that faster reload and if you're playing very close range. In this case, the problem with taking top grade gunner on a ship like Belfast is, well, it has 8.9 detection. So what that's gonna mean is you have to get really close to make use of that top grade gunner. And when you're really close in a ship like Belfast, if your smokescreen runs out, well, they can hit you pretty easily. And as you can see, we do not have a heal. Some of you notice in the build section that Belfast has an extra Tier 8 slot, module slot. And now you're a bit confused, potentially. Why does Belfast get a Tier 8 module slot whilst Fiji does not? Well, most Tier 7s do not. Like, most of them. I think Z39 might get one. Maybe Haida might get one. But not all of them get one, you know. Belfast gets a Tier 8 module slot. I don't know the actual reason for that, but if I were to guess, it was because, well, Belfast originally was a Tier 8 in testing, I believe. At least initially it was announced as a Tier 8 ship. And then, of course, they moved it down back then. This was like 8 years ago, I think, or 7 years ago. They moved it down to tier 7, but they decided back then to keep that concealment slot for the Belfast to give it, I guess. Well, I don't know why, but you know, who knows. But anyway, that probably also contributes to the fact that it's not available anymore. Actually, speaking of which, I think Haida is also not available anymore. But I'm not really sure if Haida has that concealment slot availability. So let's not talk about ships I'm not 100% sure on. We'll cover the Haida in a future video anyway, because it is not available. And of course, we're covering all the ships that aren't currently for sale in this series. But yeah, this was one of those ships which I didn't buy when it initially came out. And then they removed it. And I was really sad because I didn't have it. But then, of course, I got lucky in Christmas crates and I ended up getting it. So I was pretty happy about that. And, well, yeah, I think that's the only way right now you can get it. Or in a super container, maybe. But definitely in Christmas containers. And it's pretty cool. Now, this is the modernized version of Belfast. You might tell because of the superstructure on it. It looks modernized when compared to, for example, Belfast 43, which is actually an older version of Belfast, but it's placed as at a tier higher, which I'm not sure why. But the older version of Belfast is a tier higher than the newer version of Belfast. By that I mean newer and older, I mean in real life. Of course, this is the similar. It's very similar to the one you find in London, next to Tower Bridge. I've actually visited that museum. It's pretty cool. If you live close to London or whatever, I definitely recommend you check it out. That was pretty cool. I went there in 2017, I think, to go see the Belfast. I actually did not own Belfast when I went to see it. So I was like, man, I wish I owned the ship, but, you know, whatever. So yeah. This is the one you can find. Well, I don't know if it's exactly the same, because it might have been modernized one more time to give it a modern anti-aircraft or something. But this is the one you find next to Tower Bridge in London. So that's pretty cool. Now I'm waiting for this Jaguar here. We're going to try to kill him quickly because I don't want to get cross-mapped by, well, Scharnhorst or Colorado or Normandy. Unfortunately, we did let that Colorado live at very low HP. I wasn't able to finish him off, and that's my mistake. But that's okay. We need to try to respect his shots if he does end up shooting me. Oh, big damage on the Jaguar. I think our team can finish, though. I'm going to shoot him one more time just in case. I don't want to get away with it. But our team does finish him off very nicely. So now I want to kind of push straight into their spawn. And potentially do some damage. I would like to farm their Colorado. I'm going to ping the map here to let my team know that there's a Lazo going back to our home cap. Hopefully they will go defend it. I don't want to, because my ship's actually not too fast. I mean, it's 34 knots, so actually for tier 7 cruisers, it's pretty, like, average, I think. But I don't really want to have to go back, so maybe our King George and Leon, they're both very close to our cap. I think the Leon's actually going to end up going back, which is pretty nice of him to do. But yeah, the Belfast. Do you guys own a Belfast? And if not, do you want one? It is still pretty good. It is still pretty strong in 2025. Not to say it's as strong as it used to be, though, because ever since they did nerf the IFHE... Now, before, you have to keep in mind, Belfast had 32mm HE penetration with IFHE, and it also didn't lose as much fire chance. So not only did you pen tier 9 battleships like Lion everywhere or Iowa on the nose and stern, but also you kept your fire chance pretty much the same as your stock fire chance. So it made the ship pretty strong indeed. Even stronger than it is nowadays. So I don't want to actually cap here, unfortunately. I do want to get damage. So I'm going to turn out of the cap. And the reason I want to do this is because I want to prolong the game as long as possible. But unfortunately, I think our Z is going to end up capping. But that's okay. Scharnhorst is full speed boost here, so he's going pretty fast. Not much we can do right now. The game's gonna end in like a minute and a half maximum, so let's try to farm as much damage on this Scharnhorst as we can. But yeah, as I was saying, you had basically the stock fire chance, the non-nerfed fire chance with IFHE, and you also had that 32mm HE penetration, which was really nice back then. So not to say it's as strong as it used to be, it's definitely not. It's most definitely not, but it's still pretty good. And it's I mean, it's probably one of the easiest ships to play at tier 7. It is a smoke cruiser at the end of the day, right? So you can kind of just sit and smoke as I'm doing right now and get to farm things for free. You, of course, need to rely on your team spotting, unfortunately, of course. But you do have that radar and hydro availability. So, you know, even if you're in smoke, you can kind of still spot destroyers. And you can play, for example, if the game mode was with caps and stuff, you could, of course, play close to the capture points and do, well, decent damage in that regard to destroyers. But you don't want to play too aggressive, especially in tier 9 matchmaking, because, well, you're gonna face ships like Riga or Donskoy, and those things have 12-kilometer radar. And if you're gonna face those ships, you're gonna have a pretty hard time if you're playing up close. But luckily with Belfast, unlike, for example, something like Atlanta, you've got 15 kilometers of range to utilize, and you also have smokescreen, unlike Atlanta, right? And, of course, unlike Flint, you actually get radar. But anyway, we're up to 115k damage, which is pretty much a good game, a decent game for a tier 7 cruiser regardless. For Belfast, of course, you're expecting at least 100k average, I think. My average is 100k, so I'm sure you guys can beat me, you know. All you have to do is kind of just sit and smoke and farm damage. And of course, when you're losing the game, you actually fight destroyers. You could go early in against, for example, this match, for example. Look how aggressive we played at the start of the game, right? Against that Anshan and stuff. But I didn't overextend. Playing aggressive doesn't mean overextending. Especially in a light cruiser like this with a Citadel, you don't want to overextend. Because even though you have smoke radar, guys, if you overextend, you're going to get smoke spotted. Smoke spotting is 5.3 on this ship. So you kind of... This guy is 1 HP, by the way. I don't want to have to shoot him. I'm letting my Leon get the kill. But I don't think actually my Leon has a shot on him. So I'll just rotate my guns here really fast and try to kill him. Yeah, we got a free kill, guys. How exciting is that? And then we re-rotate our guns to the Colorado, who's not even moving. But he's aiming, so I think he's actually actively shooting. But I'm not sure. We did get that Lazo kill, luckily. We did actually get a decent game, though. I don't know what happened. I guess our Z31 got reset or something. Which was good, guys. I'm happy. We got to play the game a bit longer. But Malta, you didn't win as quickly. It's not about winning as quickly as physically possible sometimes, guys. Sometimes you want to have a longer game. But plus, we were guaranteed the win. As long as we're guaranteed the win, it doesn't really matter that we don't win too fast, right? As long as you're winning. Try not to lose, guys. Because that's not good. But that's the game. We ended up doing 139,573 damage, 318 shell hits, 7 incaps, 2 kills, 8 fires, 3 secondary hits, and 2 spotted ribbons. We also got high caliber. Very nice achievement. Team score, we got top of our team at 1.8k base XP, which is pretty nice, of course. Detailed report, we got 14.9k on the Anshan. We got 1 damage. If you want to take a picture of that and post it somewhere, you can totally you can, guys. But we got 1 damage on the Lazo and killed him. Pretty good. 59k on the Colorado, 34k on the Scharnhorst 43, 20k on the Congo, and 10k on the Jaguar. Pretty much all our damage actually came from HE this game. I do have other games where I actually, you know, of course, use more AP or something. But realistically, with a ship like Belfast, especially if you're taking IFHE, you're going to damage those ships very fast with that HE. The AP you can still use on broadsides, but in this game, we didn't really find too many cruisers to punish broadside guys, so we're not going to be using that AP as much. But you can use the AP, yes, on closer range targets, battleships, closer range targets that are full broadside. And of course, light cruisers, you can citadel them pretty good. 20k on fires here. Credits and XP. Here you go. For my commander build here, we're running Last Stand. It's actually a bit different than the one I showcased before. But that's okay. I actually recommend the one I showcased before, but I don't really want to reset my commander, so this is what I'm going to be showing. Last Stand for our engine, because it breaks very easily. Priority target. I used to use it more often before, so I know who's aiming at me. But in the case of Belfast, you're kind of in smoke most of the time. Or whatever. We've got Superintendent for the extra radar, smoke, and hydro. Very useful on the Belfast. We've got Survivability Expert, so we can get over 40,000 HP on a Tier 7 cruiser. We don't have heals, so that's very useful. Concealment Expert, so we go down to 8.9 detection, which is very good. Very close to our 8.5 radar detection. IFHE, so we get that improved penetration up to 31, so we can pen the 26mm armor on those Tier 6 and 7 battleships. Adrenaline Rush, of course, for faster reload when we take damage, always a good skill. And grease the gears because our turret traverse is actually not that fast on a light cruiser like Belfast. And you could actually take consumable enhancements instead, which is actually what I kind of recommend nowadays. But it really depends upon you, priority target or consumable enhancements. It's super up to you what you want to take. For my equipment, I have Concealment System Mod 1. This is something you won't find on something like Fiji, for example. A Concealment System Mod 1. Steering Gears Mod 1. Aiming System Mod 1. For better dispersion. Surveillance Radar Mod 1. I think it's probably more useful than the Hydro. You get an extra shot, I think, almost. With that 20% extra duration. And you get Main Armaments Mod 1. Now, if you do take the 2-point skill, you actually get a 10% longer Smokescreen, Radar, and Hydro. I think it's worthwhile for sure. For the exterior camouflage for Belfast, and unfortunately, it looks like this port is a bit dark, so I'm going to switch port to something a bit more bright so we can actually take a look. Normally, this port's actually pretty bright, so we can actually look at the camouflages, but let's switch to Kronstadt because the colors are pretty decent here. So we've got this light blue, it looks to be a black and maybe a dark brown. Maybe a camo green, I'm not sure. Maybe it's not white. We've got the green deck, which is pretty nice here. And of course, the wooden deck on the back. If we take a look at the alternate camouflage we have for the Belfast, it looks like this, which actually also looks pretty decent. I like this color up on the front here. It looks like a desert camo almost. For the premium camos, we got the Irish Emerald, which makes it green. As we know, Belfast is Northern Ireland, I believe. So that's why it has that. And if we put on the Azure Lane camouflage as well, if I can find that, we also have an Azure Lane camouflage for the Belfast as well. So that is what it looks like. It actually looks pretty decent. Not too much on the anime side there, so it's actually not too bad. And it looks pretty good, actually. But I, of course, use the normal camouflage. This is the actual camouflage I believe you can find on the Belfast in London right now. So that's always pretty nice. For my statistics in the Belfast, we've got 151 games played, 74% win rate, 101k average damage, so not too bad. As I said, the 100k average is kind of what you want to get in this ship. And 218k is my record. But 101k average, 74% win rate is actually pretty decent for a tier 7 cruiser. So I'm pretty happy with that regardless. And that's pretty much the video for the Belfast, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Of course, let me know what ship you want to see in the next episode or next video in the removed series. Of course, by removed, we mean removed from sale. You can, of course, get them in containers. I think super containers and Christmas containers, at least so far. But removed from sale, that's what it means. You can't buy it directly for cash or the balloons anymore. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. This was actually my first, I think, Belfast video on my channel, which is quite surprising, as you can see, because I have quite a lot of games on my Belfast. I did cover Belfast 43 already, but not Belfast, so this is Belfast. That's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. Next ship, what you want to see. And, of course, if you did enjoy, please leave a like, a comment, and a sub to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and big fan.